Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video with me, Sherman. Today we are taking a look at Meridia's Light. This is a Khajiit healer. I know, sounds strange, but this is what I play on live. I play Khajiit healer. I really like it. It's a lot of fun. It's different. There are better races for it. You can be a high elf, you can be a dark elf, you can be an Argonian, you can be a Breton. Breton, high elf, and Argonian are better for this role, not gonna lie. But I like to play the Khajiit because I like the challenge. So that's what I do. So let's get into it. So as you can see, 64 into Magicka. This gives me a 32k Magicka, max Magicka. I have a 17k health, 12k stamina with a 1942 Magicka recovery. I do have an 1857 spell damage with a 29% crit. My spell resist is 14k with a 9.8k physical resist. Almost 10k physical resist, which is nice. Moving on down, I do have minor ages because I am using the Olorum set. I do have the Mage's Mundus Stone for Max Magicka, and then I am using Witch Mother's Potent Brew. You can use Witch Mother's, or you can use the set out of the Clockwork City. I forget the name of it, but it's a gold food, and it does a little bit more health, a little bit more Magicka, just a tiny bit. And it gives you health recovery plus magic recovery, and that's a little bit higher too. But this works fine, and it's actually really good. So, and it's cheaper. So, that's our food, that's our stats. Let's move on to the gear. Do use spell power pots. These things you can get off the guild traders, things like that, or have somebody craft them for you and pay them. They're gonna be expensive regardless, but if you can get somebody to make you some, they are really helpful. So they will boost your max. Your magic return, they boost your magic recovery, they boost your major sorcery, major prophecy, increasing spell damage and spell crit. They're just overall really good. So, going over the gear sets. Starting with the monster set, we are using Earthgore. Earthgore, honestly, between all the healer sets, I don't see much of a difference in their proc chance. This one just has a greater proc chance when somebody's below 50% health. It's nice. It does heal it heals all friendly targets, in the area for 34,000 health. It's a really powerful heal over 6 seconds, so it's a really good one. It also removes any negative effects underneath the ally, so it's kind of nice. It's a nice set overall. It also gives you 2% healing done. This is a really good thing. So on the monster set, to the next set, we are using Olorums. Like I said, this gives us, the 2 and 4 piece gives us magic recovery. I'm not using the perfected ones, guys, because perfected ones are not as easy to come by. You have to be at true in-game to get those, and this is just to get you to in-game, so using the normal set is going to be fine. As you can see, the thing about this and the perfected is the perfected does give you another 5-piece bonus of max Magicka. So that's a nice bonus addition because that will give you another 1,000 Magicka. It'll take you up to 33,000, and technically it's almost 34,000 where it'll put you. So that's really good. It'll boost your max Magicka if you're using the perfected Olorum's set. But we're not using that for this build because this is to help you get to in-game. Next up, so the 2 and the 4-piece magic recovery, the 3-piece is awesome. This gives you minor Aegis, and minor Aegis does stack with any damage reduction. It does not become a multiplicative. It is a pure 5% bonus no matter what. It's kind of like the 5% damage bonus you get for using the minor Slayer. It's a flat 5% bonus. No matter what, you automatically get it with any other additional damage you get. It doesn't become multiplicative or anything like that. It just gets added to it. So, really good bonus. And then the 5-piece. Casting abilities that leave an area of effect on the ground in combat will create a circle of might for 10 seconds. You and your allies in the circle gain major courage for 42 seconds, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 258 for 42 seconds. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. Now, you guys are probably wondering, how do I get 42 seconds out of this? And that's because of the next set we're running, which is Jovials, or Jorvolds. Jorvolds is really powerful. it gives you 2 things of magic recovery, 1 thing of healing done, and then increases the duration of all major buffs, minor buffs, and damage shields you apply to yourself and allies by 40%. The reason it's so good on a Templar is a Templar gets a passive in their Dawn's Wraith called Illuminate, which grants minor sorcery. And it normally lasts for 20 seconds. But because we have Jorvolds, we get it for 28. But you do have to cast a Dawn's Wraith ability to get it to proc. So that's one of the reasons why we have Purifying Light. I need to do something real quick, guys. Just real quick, I need to change some stuff. I forgot to do this before. It's me being a goof, sorry. Alright. So, back to the gear. So on the main gear here, we do have 3 infused. On the big pieces with Tri-Stats, the smaller pieces are Max Magicka and Divines. So you want the enchants to be Max Magicka, and all this is golded out, guys. Gold enchants, gold everything. That's why my stats are so high on this character. And this plays into the fact, I want to point this out to people. So, I have a build theory thing that I play off of called 20-32. Now, if I have somebody hit me with Ebon and minor toughness, I will be over 20k health, just to let you know. So I will be over 20k health. I will have 32,000 max magicka and 20k health. That's where 20-32 comes into play. I also can break 2k spell damage, and I can break 30% crit. So I'm in a good place for this build to work appropriately. That's where 20-32 comes into play really well with this build. Also, when I buff my resistances, I get really good resistances. I'll show you that in a second. So, going over the jewelry, we do have 3 spell damage on here. You can put 2 spell cost reduction, but honestly, you don't need it. You have so much recovery. You have so much resource management on this build, it's ridiculous that none of that other stuff is necessary. So, 3 spell damage work out really well with this build. Now, going down to the weapons, we are using 2 infused Jorvold staffs. One's lightning, one's resto. The lightning staff, as you can see, we have it set up with a weakening enchant. You can put a shock enchant on here. That's up to you. And then on the back bar, we have a magic damage or absorb magicka enchant with a magic damage and magicka return. This is really good overall. This setup right here is really good. The shock enchant does improve your chances of getting the off balance on the enemy, which is good for CP, the blue tree, and that is for this one here. If your allies have it, your stam DPS have this, the 10% increase in damage. So, all right, so that's the gear, guys. I know it looks a little like a standard meta setup, but it is. This is what they run, and this is what class they play. So, I do play a Khajiit healer on live, and I'm gonna be trying to get this set up for myself. Honestly, I'll probably go with Worm Cult in this, in Olorum's, and I probably won't go with Earthgore for now. I'll probably just stick with Sentinels, because I do like Sentinels better, because Sentinels gives stamina back to your allies, and it procs wherever you heal. So if you're healing your allies in the front and at the boss, that little spider thing comes out, and it will give them health, and it will give them resources, and now it can't be killed, so that's a benefit. Alright, moving on to the skills. So starting with class passes, make sure you get all your class passes, especially with this build. You want to get all your class passes because you benefit from so many of them. Moving on to the weapons, destruction staff, restoration staff, get the passives. On to the armor, light armor, get all the passives. It's very important. Medium armor, top 2, bottom 1. We are wearing a 5-1-1 setup, so we are wearing 5 light, 1 heavy, 1 medium. Moving on here, and the helm is heavy and the medium shoulders. The rest is light, just to let you know. So, on heavy armor, get all 3 of the top passives. And then moving over here to soul magic, these 2 are really good. You can be a vampire with this build, but honestly, I wouldn't do that because you take too much fire damage. Fighters Guild, Intimidating Presence. Mages Guild, if you want to use Inner Light, you can use it on both bars. You just have to give up a skill slot to do it, and in some cases, it's going to be a negative on the character. So you can use Inner Light, and if you do, make sure you use Magicka Controller with it. But with the Mages Guild, you only need Persuasive Wills. Moving on to Psijic Order, You can swap out one of your skills if you wanted to. If you did with this, I would suggest swapping out Ward Ally. You can put Mend Spirit there, and Mending Spirit will give the person you're healing, while you heal them, they get major and major resolve, major ward, increasing their physical and spell resistance while you heal them. So if you're using a channeled heal, the heavy attack, you can heal them and give them major ward, major resolve, which is really kind of good. But it's only necessary, or it doesn't always work effectively. It's kind of a weird skill. But if you do take it, make sure you take all of the passives. Just letting you know, because this will reduce the cost of the magicka used for running this, and then you also get the spell orbs, you get the concentrated berry, you get deliberation. So really good skill. Undaunted, you want to get the Undaunted passives, just letting you know. And then moving down here to support, you want to get magicka aid because you do have reviving barrier on the front bar. And then race, whatever your race is, get all the racial passives. And then alchemy, medicinal use, gourmand and connoisseur under provisioning. And that is that. Now let's go over the skills, because this is where things get really, really interesting. Because we are a Templar, we do not need orbs from the Undaunted. A lot of people like to run orbs, and if you do, you need to drop your Luminous Shards. So, starting with our first skill on our bar, we have Blockade of Storms. This has the chance of creating off balance, so really good. It also does lightning damage, which is also really good. Next on our bar is Luminous Shards. This does magic damage, and it does magic damage over time. It does a decent amount. Blazing Spear actually does more damage, but it only gives back 1 resource. Luminous Shards gives back 2. And it will give you a large amount for whatever is higher for your character. So if it's like, if you're a tank and your stamina is higher, you're going to get stamina back and then magicka back. If you're a DPS and you're a stamina player, you're going to get stamina back and a little bit of magicka. Same thing with anyone else. It's really good, and it's actually it takes less time to cast this and get it to allies than it does with orbs. So, all right. So moving on now from this to the next ability, we have Purifying Light. This is a great ability. It stacks a lot of damage on the enemy. It does damage with the initial hit. It builds damage up, because it absorbs some of the damage that people do and holds it. The enemy still takes the damage, but it holds damage that is taken to it and builds up for 6 seconds. And then after that 6 seconds, 20% of the damage it absorbs is released. So it can deal a total of 19,455 magic damage to the enemy. On top of that, it also heals allies in a radius around it. So it can heal anyone around it for 2,569 health every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. So you get a 3-tick heal, and it also casts our minor sorcery, which is right here. So, which is also really good. Next on our bar is Ritual of Retribution. This is a good heal. It's also a good area of effect damage ability, and it also can be synergized for a cleanse of conditions. It also removes 2 negative conditions from you, and most of the time you won't have more than 2, maybe 3 conditions on you as a healer, so it's really good. And also when you cast it, it will cast Olorum as well. So now a lot of people ask, why use this over the ritual, the other ritual? The reason why I choose this one is because if you look, here at this, when we switch, so Ritual Retribution deals 1571 magic damage, and it heals for 1365. Extended Ritual, which does last a little longer, heals for less, and it cleanses you of 5 conditions, but it still has the same synergy. The only difference is that it removes more harmful effects and heals for less. This actually helps with group damage because it does apply damage, and on top of that, it heals for more in less time, which means it actually heals for the same amount. in the long run. So, because this heals for 246 extra, pretty much, over this, or 240 something more, or 210 something more than this, it actually comes out to equaling out almost the same in healing. But it deals damage. That's why I like Ritual of Retribution more. So, moving on to the next skill on our bar, we have Elemental Drain. We have this here for the Major Breach. We also have it here for Magicka Steel. It lasts for 24 seconds. The Minor Magicka Steel is really good because when you put this on the enemy, it puts that on there for everyone. So everyone in your group who hits it will get the Magicka Steel. So, really nice. It also costs nothing. So, next up we have Reviving Barrier, a good support skill. It does a really good damage shield, and it does a really good heal over 30 seconds. This is mainly here for those really bad, scary, oh crap moments. You're not going to barely be using it, though. Moving on to the back bar. On the back bar, we do have Breath of Life, which is an absurdly large heal. Now, it does heal yourself or wounded ally in front of you for X amount of health. It also heals one other injured ally for so much. It's a really powerful heal. So, really nice. The next ability is Healing Springs. Now, Healing Springs is the main heal we're going to be using, and as you can see, it heals, and it heals over time, and then on top of that, it gives you Magicka back for up to 3 targets that you heal. Now, that Magicka it gives you back is basically reducing the cost of the heal. So it costs you 3,019, but if you get the full amount back, you get over 1,000 almost in resources back. So it basically drops the cost to 2,000, and then when you look at your recovery, and then when you have your pot going, you go to 2,000. So basically the cost is going to become nothing for that cast. So it's a really decent trade-off when you look at it that way. So, but Healing Springs is really good. The next ability on our bar is Combat Prayer, another cheap heal. It does do a nice big heal. It can heal up to 10k on this build. And it grants Minor Berserk, Minor Resolve, and Minor Ward, increasing damage of all your allies and you by 8%, your physical and spell resistance by 1320 for 11 seconds because of Jorvolds, and it heals. So, I mean, it's just really good. Like I said, it's a really good heal. So, as you can see there, I'm not getting the heals as high, but if I use my crit, if I get a crit, it's 10k. So, there you go, 936. But if I have my Jorvolds also, I can get it to crit for 10k. So it's a really nice one. Alright, moving on, next ability. Ward Ally. This is a great damage shield, guys, because this shield actually is based off of max Magicka and spell damage. So the more max Magicka you have, as you can see here, like I have my Jorvolds, I'll go ahead and put my Purifying Light up, and then I'll cast it again. I get almost a 7k shield, and if this is also grows in strength by 300% based on the person's injuries, so you guys can see here, and it does apply a shield to you and one other person, and it is based on the damage. So as you can see, there's 7k right there. I've gotten it up to like 20k before when my DPS was down below like 25%. I put it on him and it gave him like a 40k shield. So it was really ridiculous. So it's a really good damage shield. If you wanted to, though, you could switch out for the light armor annulment. And the best one to go with when you're in dungeons is Dampen or Harness Magicka. When you're in PvP, Dampen Magicka is really good, but this is also really good in PvE as well. So either one of them, your choice, but I like this because it gives Magicka back whenever you get hit by Magicka damage. And for each piece of light armor restored, the Magicka return is increased by 3%. So really good. Moving on to our last skill here on R5 is Channel Focus. This gives us Major Ward, Major Resolve, and grants us Magicka return. So when we cast it, it costs us less because it costs us 900 and something, but we get 240 back as soon as we cast it, pretty much. So it's like 500 or 700 to cast it. It's almost nothing. It gives us Major Ward, Major Resolve, which increases our spell and physical resist. And on top of that, standing in the circle boosts our resistances by 50%. So our resistances, without any other buffs, is 12 or 22,000 on spell and 17 here. But if we have our combat prayer up, and we have this, we go to 19k physical, 23k spell. Really good resistances overall. This is, you're almost a tank. So, alright, now moving on to the CP. Oh, one more skill, sorry. Last and finally, Aggressive Warhorn. This gives your allies within 20 meters of you max magicka, stamina by 10% for 30 seconds. You also get Major Force for 15 seconds, or for 13 seconds, which increases critical damage by 15%, and that does apply to you as well. So that's 13 seconds, which is longer than what it normally is. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you guys what it looks like when you're fully buffed up with that. So you go to 35k magicka, 13k stamina, which is really good, and then you have really absurd resistances, like I said. So even though, you know, Warhorn just boosts your stats and your crit chance. But that's the skills. Now moving on to CP. I use a universal red CP, so you can change this if you want to something else. Outcast has some really good options on his website, so I think it's under the trials section. But you can look in there, and he shows you some good ways to set it up. But for this, 66 in Ironclad, this reduces direct damage taken by 22%. Moving on over here, we have 31 into Thick Skin. This reduces damage taken from damage over time effects by 13%. 15 into Hardy, reduces physical poison disease damage by 12%, and then 56 in Elemental Expert, reducing flame, frost, shock, and magic damage by 12%. Now you have to remember, these stack with Thick Skin and Ironclad, so any direct damage you take is actually being reduced by 44%. Any damage over time effects is actually being reduced by 15 or 25%. So pretty good there. And then we have 2 into Light Armor Focus. This increases our physical resistance by 209. It just gives us a little bit more on the physical side since we don't have a lot anyways. Moving on to the next part, we have 40 in the Bastion. This increases the effectiveness of damage shields by 16%. This helps a lot with that ward and the reviving barrier. Now, if you're not using those, you can take the 40 out of here, and I would suggest putting it into Spell Shield. It helps a lot. But try to keep the 19 in the quick recovery, because this increases your healing received by 5%. Anything you can do to increase your own capabilities along with your groups is important. So, and the survivability is key. Moving on over here, we have 56 in a Warlord. This reduces break free cost by 20%. 23 into Sprinter, reducing sprint cost by 14% since we do sprint a lot in trials moving around. And then moving over here, we have 76 in Arcanist. This increases magic recovery by 14%. Here's the thing about putting 75 in here, just to let you know. It actually is 13.98%. For some reason, the game reads it as 14. It's not 14%. It still counts as 13. And then here, we have 43 into Tenacity to give us a 10% increase from our heavy attacks on Magicka side. So on the Lightning Staff, we get 40% return of resources. On the Resto Staff, we get 70%. You can take this up to 75 or 76 if you want and get 14%, but honestly, that 4 extra percent isn't going to make a huge difference. Moving on over here, we have 16 into Shadow Ward. This reduces our block cost by 7%. You can put more points in here if you want to by taking out a Tumbling, but I really like my Tumbling at 56 to give me that 20% reduced dodge roll cost. It's really handy. Alright, moving on. 56 in a Bless increases your healing done by 12%. We have 66 in the Elfborn, increasing your critical damage and critical heals done by 12%. And then, or 22%, sorry. 43 in the Elemental Expert, increasing Flame, Frost, Shock, and magic damage by 10%. If we were a High Elf, we'd get 4% extra shock damage. But since we're not, I'm just a Khajiit. I only get Magicka damage, you know, so I just left 10%. You don't need much. 9 into Spell Erosion, increasing your spell pen. This helps with your damage towards enemies, because you do a lot of heavy attacks, just letting you know. Moving on to the middle tree, we have 16 into Staff Expert. This increases light light and heavy attacks damage with our staves by 10%. And then Master at Arms, we have 40 in here. This gives us 16% more direct damage. That's if we light attack. So if you light attack, this will do direct damage. So if you just do... Let me just do this. If you just do that, that's direct damage. But if you channel, see how it does the same damage across the board almost? Unless it crits. But it does the same damage because that is a channeled attack. And it is actually boosted by, because it's considered damage over time, Thaumaturge. So that's why we have 40 points in the Thaumaturge. So the 40 here is to increase your light attack damage. This is to increase your channeled attack damage. You could take away from the light attack and put it all into just boosting your damage if you wanted to, and lighten from your heavy attacks, because that's what you do mostly. Which would help out a lot more, to be honest. So, that is the CP, that is the skills, that is the gear, guys. That is Meridia's Light. And Meridia's Light is one of my favorite builds to play. Not this, I don't have this setup, but I do play the Meridia's Light on the live servers. I actually run Worm Cult right now with the set that's crafted in the Fighters Guild. Because I don't play a lot of in-game stuff, I just play veteran dungeons, so I don't need much. And in some cases, I prefer Worm Cult with Julianus, because then I can build for more DPS and just use heals as a secondary thing. And in that case, I run Blazing Spear instead of Spear Shards. So that way I can play more DPS and still run a dungeon and be effective, instead of being less DPS and just heals. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the build, guys. You can make of it what you will. It's up to you. But this is with a Khajiit, and like I said, Khajiits can be healers. Any class, any race can be a healer or a tank or DPS. It doesn't matter. Both Stamina Magicka, even a high elf can be a Stam DPS. They're just not going to be as effective as a race that has the benefits for it. But that's the flaw of it, and that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it challenging, is overcoming the flaws. So that's why I choose a Khajiit. But that's pretty much it for this build, guys. If you like this build, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more builds by me, you can hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.